Altenew friends, it's another Perfect Pairings with Jaycee for December 2019. The Perfect Pairing series is where I will show you a new product from this month's release and pair with an old favorite or one that you have yet to discover. I'm always open to suggestions for what you would like to see on this series, so please let me know of an old set you would like me to use in the comments below. So first, let me tell you where I got the inspiration for this video. I was out grocery shopping for the holidays and I passed this arrangement of flowers over in the florist section of the store. I didn't pay any mind to it until suddenly I realized I have all of these flowers in Altenew stamps. Which stamps am I thinking of? Well, let me show you. The first stamp set that came to mind was Altenew's BAF Stargazer, new for December 2019. If you've never heard of the BAF subscription, it is an exciting gift you give yourself every first of the month with a fabulous layering floral set. I've got the service link below. Also featured in the bouquet is Sunflower Daisy stamp and die set. Now this one was new for 2019, but bonus, here's the older set Poinsettia and Pine from 2015. This is a 4x6 stamp set with beautiful bold outline images, perfect for your holiday stash. One of the techniques I wanted to show you all is how to get beautiful white flowers using Altenew Layering Crisp dye inks. Here I'm showing you the 3 cardstocks I'm using to achieve this white flower look, and I'm trying to get something somewhat identical to the inspiration image. I have a cream colored cardstock. I think I got this from a variety pack at a big box store. A bright white cardstock, and Altenew's Woodgrain white cardstock. I'm using the first 2 cardstocks for the flowers, of course, but the Woodgrain cardstock is important for these cards to help distinguish the texture of the white flowers and the white background. In other words, I'm using the Woodgrain white cardstock to help the white flowers stand out from the background. I'm going to stamp the Altenew BAF Stargazer flower first. To summarize, I am stamping the layers of the flower following the layering guide. However, I'm omitting the base layer or the layer that contains more surface area simply because I want the color of the cardstock to do the work for me. In this case, it's the cream colored cardstock. After studying the inspiration image, I found that the lily in the bouquet was a cream color with hints of green and creamy sandy shadows. So the first thing I'm going to grab is vanilla cream from Delectable Delights ink set. To help diffuse and mute the ink a little bit and reinforce the white flower feel, I'm grabbing one of these ink blending sponges. I'm going to apply a small bit of ink in the center of the stamp, and then using the ink blending sponge, I'm going to dab and diffuse the ink toward the outside of the petal. I'm just using the white cardstock just so you all can see. Once I feel confident that I've blended the ink without any harsh edges, I'll swing the door of my mini MISTI over and stamp the image. If I feel like adding more color, I can certainly do that by repeating the inking and dabbing process until I achieve a desired saturation. But in the end, I want a beautifully diffused look to these flowers with a little depth in the center, just like you're actually looking into the center of a flower. Now, I like making multiple cards at once. You've got all the materials out to make a card, so why not make more than one, you know? Okay, so now in my mini MISTI, I have the third most detailed layer of the petals. Like I said earlier, I noticed a bit of green in the petals from the inspiration image. So now I'm grabbing bamboo from the Tropical Forest family of inks and essentially doing the same thing as before. I'm inking and dabbing the dye ink in layers until I obtain the saturation I'm looking for. To finish this flower, I'm leaving the filaments of the stamens unstamped, but I will stamp the anther and freckles of the Stargazer using hazelnut from the Delectable Delights family of inks. And there you go, here are my 4 BAF Stargazers. Moving on to the Sunflower Daisy stamp set, nearly everything is the same as before, just with a different ink family, of course. Obviously, we can't stamp white onto white cardstock, so then we have to color the image using the shadow layers. The Sunflower Daisy stamp set is one of my favorites for ultra-dimensional flowers. Again, I'm omitting the base layer of the flowers A1 and B1, and I'll skip right to A2 and B2. I'm going to use the Warm Gray family of inks from Altenew to achieve these lifelike shadows with the help of an ink blending sponge as before. To reiterate, I'm applying a small amount of ink in the center of the flower stamp. Then I'll use the ink blending sponge to pounce on top of the stamp and ink to help diffuse the color towards the end of the petals. I'll add this color in layers to help give a soft gradient to the flowers. Since the smaller flower only has 2 layers, I faked dimension by stamping and diffusing the B2 layer in Morning Frost, but then I used Evening Gray and repeated the diffusing process, but I didn't take the ink as far as Morning Frost, giving a small dark halo in the center of the flower. This is why I like the mini ink cubes over the ovals, because I get to make these detailed stamped images. But that's certainly my preference. For the center of the flowers, I grabbed the Summer Afternoon family of inks and stamped those layers following the layering guide. It was a beautifully sunny day in my craft room, so the flowers don't look like much on camera, but believe me, they are there. Now here are my flower panels. I'll set these aside and work on the next element in my card. For the final stamp set, Altenew's Poinsettia and Pine, I'm using the pine cone image and simply heat embossing on gray cardstock using a metallic silver embossing powder. I don't have the antique silver crisp embossing powder, but I'll link to it below. The foliage in the original inspiration image contained a coniferous type juniper bundle, so the Altenew Poinsettia and Pine set is perfect for adding some greenery as well. To keep things coordinated, I'll use olive and moss from the Tropical Forest family of inks from earlier and create a simple stamped gradient using the ink blending sponge. I have olive toward the tips of the needles and moss towards the branch. Okay, just to recap, I have the BAF Stargazer, Sunflower Daisy, Poinsettia and Pine Pinecone, and conifer foliage. Now, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so if I spend all that time stamping all these images, I want a beautifully placed margin all around the stamp when I die cut it. But with the pale colors, I'm sure if you're recreating this project, it might be difficult to see where to place the die to get a perfect cut from the Mini Blossom die cutting machine. So my tip is to grab a scrap piece of typing paper and die cut the flowers. I'm not concerned about the positive pieces here. I'm using the negative piece to create a frame around the stamped flower to see where my die should go. So I'm moving and framing the stamped image within the positive space of the frame. You'll know when it's lined up correctly by an even margin around the detail layers. I'll tape this frame down temporarily with some washi tape so that it doesn't move. Then I'll simply take the coordinating die for this image and align the die to the space. You'll be able to feel the die sort of lock into place when you have the die oriented correctly. Now before you take this to your die cutting machine, you can always check at this point to make sure the die placement makes sense. I'll repeat this for the larger flower. I'm aligning the negative frame to the stamped image and taping it down. Then I'll grab the coordinating die and lock it into the positive space and tape it down again. Then I'll take this entire panel to my die cutting machine and there you go, perfect die cuts. Now I'll simply cut out all my images and get them ready for arranging. I've already got my Woodgrain white cardstock adhered to some card bases. There are enough flowers stamped and die cut to make 4 cards, so that's why I have so many bouquet elements, just to give you all many ideas on how to arrange these images. I love an aesthetically pleasing arrangement, and I'll spend quite a long time making sure these images lay exactly how I want. I'm looking for an overall triangular shape to the flowers and a complementary triangular shape to the foliage. Odd numbers also create visual interest and tension, making your recipient's eyes wander to the 3 implied points of the triangle. So that's what I strive for in these floral arrangements, and I'll follow that method for the rest of the images and card bases. To help the white flowers stand out a little bit more from the white background, I have a piece of cream-colored tissue paper here. I'll use the largest circle from the Halftone Circles Nesting die set to cut out 4 circles, 1 for each card base. I'll use these circles as a spotlight behind the white flowers. I won't make the tissue paper too obvious, so it won't peek out too far from underneath the white flowers of the arrangement. I've used a piece of Glad press and seal to pick up the entire arrangement and apply glue to the back of the die cuts before pressing down the tissue paper to the back. I may also add foam squares to the back of one of the foreground flowers just for some added dimension. Okay, fabulous. So here are my 4 floral arrangements. The tissue paper is not permanently glued down yet because I still need to add my sentiment. I thought the sentiments from the Sunflower Daisy stamp set were perfect for the new year, and I decided to white heat emboss the sentiment onto gray cardstock because I felt that the metallic pine cone was a little too evident on the arrangement. so the gray cardstock will help balance out the solid gray pine cone. I cut the sentiments into banners and arranged them in a way so that they don't cover too much of the flowers in the arrangement. Lastly, I added a few gunmetal sequins to also help balance out the gray and the bit of shine from the silver embossing before permanently adhering the arrangement to my card base. And that's it. Build a Flower Stargazer, Sunflower Daisy, and Poinsettia and Pine are a perfect pairing and have made this dimensional floral arrangement perfect for someone who you look forward to share the new year with. Don't forget to play around with your floral arrangements to add variety to your card stash. If you all have suggestions on your older Altenew favorites you would like featured on this series, please leave them in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, share it with your Altenew friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another Perfect Pairings with Jaycee, and I'll see you all next year.